بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Now, this lecture is going to follow upon the last few I've made. So I do highly encourage everyone to understand this as a collective wisdom. In this lecture series about the meanings of Arabic, the keys to Arabic, we have essentially culminated in how to deeply understand and learn the Arabic language from the cosmological perspective. We spoke about how to really learn words and how to learn meanings, not just upon the tongue, but in the mind, in the soul, and in the body. We explained the holistic nature of words as the fabric of reality, that we learn words by literally drinking the meanings from things themselves. I also made a video about the Arabic soul, the walking Quran. To very briefly summarize this, I said that, okay, after we have understood that language, in particular the sacred language of Arabic, is the source of reality, not just a representation of reality, that it represents, or rather it is, the very meanings in the mind of God, these Platonic ideas, archetypes, essences. As I gave in the diagram over here, the cosmos is a projection, a holographic projection and emanation from the central singularity of language. If we have understood that, then it is clear that all learning, all growth, all action is linguistic, because reality itself is linguistic, and the self in all of its dimensions is linguistic. There is the word of imagination, the word of thought, the word of action. As I say here, we can see the three levels of our being, the spiritual, the mental, and the physical. The spiritual corresponds to meanings themselves, al-ma'ani. That is the divine realm. We partake in these meanings of God by communion with the divine. That is prayer, meditation. Remember, I always say that the meaning, ma'na salat, is sila. Salah, sila. It is connection with God, with the source of reality, with the singularity of being. That is how to commune with ma'ani, with essences as they are. The mind. The mind is like a mirror. The mind is a mirror of God, a mirror of the meanings of things as they are, as they become represented in this particular receptacle that we are. Everyone is their own mirror, their own shape, their own color, like a water as well. Every water is unique. It's not all the same. Everyone has a unique flavor and color and touch, by which they receive God. Everyone's knowledge of reality, everyone's communion with the source and truth is unique unto themselves. Now, language as spoken word, as image, all of that represents the mental realm of sur, forms, images. And finally, we consist also of a body, a flesh. That is often what we confuse ourselves to be, only. The realm of the physical is really the realm of action. It is the realm of embodied action, of energy and emotion. And that is also language. It's also linguistic. So I said, right, the three levels of the self. If this is the kalima, the word, there are three levels of language, takallum. That which is in al-janan, the depths of the self, the deep mind, upon the al-lisan, right, not just the tongue, but every medium, every nerve and fiber which is communicating. The brain itself is a lisan. All communication is thus, and the body, al-banan, that which tabni, binya, builds. So thought, communication, action, these are the levels of our being. Spoke about the different worlds, the different... To learn language spiritually is to learn akhlaq, to learn good characters. Because what is character? It is a reality of the soul. To be generous is more than doing things generously. It is to be in one's essence generous. That is for the meaning, the sifa of karam, of jude, of generosity, for this meaning to sit inside of the essence. That is akhlaq. The learning of the mind is to actually flourish, for these meanings to flourish, to flower as spiritual states and feelings and emotions, as actual mental qualities. These mental qualities, this is what pushes us towards actually acting. Everything which occurs in the body is a manifestation of something which is occurring in the mind. If we are to work hard with our limbs, it is because there is a deep emotion sat inside of ourselves, pushing us to work hard. Where does that deep emotion come from? It comes from deep realities in the soul. So this is all learning, and all education. The last video about education itself, I believe it is titled On Education, simply. It's extremely important because there I explain the idea of the educational syllabus. There I explain the idea of the levels of studying. Precisely this once again, that our educational program, and make no mistake, what we are doing here is an entire educational framework. We're not just learning about language, or learning about mathematics, or any other science, or even exploring the metaphysics of games. These are all to a higher purpose, which is self-realization. And self-realization is to take place on all the levels of the self, that which is spiritual, mental, and physical. The spiritual learning, our spiritual education, is through spiritual activity, which is meditation, communion, prayer, worship, contemplation. Our mental studying is our studentship. To study languages, to study all these sciences, to memorize, to build the mindscape. Think of it as literally building the scaffolding, the architecture of the mind itself. You are building the house, the mental palace of your mindscape. Because whatever thoughts you have, they are residents of your inward mansion. If your house is clean, the residents will be clean and happy and ennobled. The house is dirty and impure, so will the thoughts be. If we are filled with negative thoughts, with anxiety or depression, or foulness, anger, envy, whatever it is, that is because the house itself is dirty. The mental structure of our mind, our mindscape, that is the problem. Don't shoot the messenger, as they say. Thoughts are a messenger. They are just messengers communicating something deeper. This mental studying is about building our minds, cleaning our minds, making our minds palaces and temples, holy palisades of communion. And thus we learn the sciences, these nexuses, these hierarchies and diagrams of meanings through constant repetition and study. Think of it as literally searing these meanings into the brain. Think of building the mind as, and this is reality, as actually building the architectonic of our neural infrastructure, which is what's happening when we study, when we repeat things, when we practice. We are literally rewiring our brain. We can rewire our brains to partake in this higher reality. That is what this imaginal mental learning is. And of course, last, sorry, this should be action word, but last is the bodily learning, actually doing what we say. We say, repeat in our rooms, whatever. We memorize some mathematics formula, or we memorize the Quran, or we memorize our Greek vocabulary, but we must actually embody what we are saying. That embodiment of these meanings. Because if they are noble meanings, this embodiment will be a noble work. It will be an artisanship. When you act out something which is beautiful, the product is going to be beautiful. It is going to be a work of art. Art is something made in the image of a higher purpose. That is art. I had a small lecture series about the philosophy of art, which I would also recommend to people who are interested. And I made this very important metaphysical distinction between a work of art and an idol. What is the difference between an idol and a work of art? An idol calls to itself, whereas a piece of art, a symbol, calls towards something else. It calls towards that which is beyond it. That is what we mean by artisanship. It is building something which leads to something greater, leads to the mental and the spiritual, does not just stay at the physical. To put this very briefly, I want to, well, at least in the last video I made, I spoke about the syllabus. If all of this is true, so what should we actually be learning? Beginning at the very top, all you need to do is choose meanings. You choose your meanings that you want to learn. Those meanings are going to be realized in your soul. You're going to memorize them and understand them, and you are going to embody them. That is what a good educational syllabus does. All you have to do is pick your meaning. Everything else is going to be done at once, like a cascading fountainhead, right? There's a fountain at the top. It overflows into the second level. That fills up, overflows into the third level. It continues to fill up and overflow again and again. So from the soul to the mind to the body itself, waves of emanations. You just need to pick the top singularity, and the rest shall take care of itself. For this is exactly how the body works. All the emotions of the body, as we said here, are generated by the central singular motion of the heart, al-qalb. So, the syllabus simply accords to those meanings which are most fundamental. That which is most fundamental above all is the knowledge of God, the knowledge of reality. So what we shall do is we shall study the 99 names of God. The best way to learn about God, to learn about Al-Haq, the absolute source of reality, the oneness of being, is to study these names, these kalimat. The first kalimat that we study are those kalimat of God. Those naturally give us a diagram of nouns, of verbs, of sentences. It naturally gives us those most fundamental sentences which we are to learn. We learn spiritual principles, those things that we shall embody continuously. We learn those ethical principles, wisdoms about how to act, how to be. These are the first things that we are learning and embodying and realizing. And so this is what we shall learn together. This is what I shall teach, God willing. This knowledge of God, this knowledge of self by way of these spiritual principles. There are many verses of the Quran which are relevant to this. Certain books of the Bible, such as the Book of Proverbs, other books of wisdom, the Psalms, of course, learning these prayers. There are so many ahadith about prayers when one wakes up, when one goes to sleep, all these other things. It is worth memorizing that. A great way to learn Arabic is just to memorize these ahadith. In the process, you will learn all the most important words about the daily routine, about eating and drinking and sleeping and working and putting on clothes and everything, all the most basic actions that we do all the time. We shall actually be learning their words. Then we are actually realizing these prayers, embodying them by speaking them as we do it. And of course, all the while, we are communing with the spiritual mystery and meaning which underlies it. I love this from Milton. What Milton says in his essays that the first sciences one should learn beyond this is the science of agriculture. We learn about the world, nature. The first work, ideally, that we should all do is to actually go out into our gardens, to go out into the fields and do some work. This is something we should all make an effort to do. In fact, it's a collective effort. I cannot do this myself. I need your help. We need to all work together wherever we are. We need to build local communities to work in agriculture. Ideally, we should all be growing our own food. We should be self-reliant. If you live in a city like me, it's quite hard to do that, but it can be done. But it requires a community effort. Nothing else, we can learn some basic permaculture. If we have a garden back doors, we can do that. But I know many people live in apartments and stuff, so it's even harder. But this is another great project of mine, which I'd be very interested if anyone would like to collaborate. I'm interested in the metaphysics of agriculture, of gardening, of connecting to nature in all its dimensions. But this is a very important work which we should do. I'd also add on to this medicine. We should all study the science of medicine, of healing, to practice this, of anatomy, of exercise, even the martial arts. We study the military arts. These are things which we should be doing, working, disciplining ourselves. We also learn about household management, about how to do simple things. We're literally learning about this. Think about it. We are learning Arabic. At the same time, as we learn the basic vocabulary of Arabic, we are also studying how to actually do things. And we actually do them. So many hadith compel us to act. Sadaqah, for example. I think there's a hadith, I don't remember exactly, but كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كل فعل خير وكل فعل خير صدقة. Every good action is sadaqah. The reality of sadaqah, right, zakat, does not just mean giving a portion of your wealth to charity. What a small-minded way to see this. Charity is doing good. The pillar of zakat, in general, simply refers to doing good. Part of that, yes, is to give a portion of one's wealth, because that is important. It's very important. Some level of wealth redistribution is very important in society. But the very essence is to simply do good. We practice that, we learn that. There are so many practical manuals. Particularly in the Arabic tradition, what we should understand is that not only were there so many sundry sciences of the mind and the soul, we wrote so many books about literal physical arts. There are entire manuals about any art you can think of. About bricklaying, there must be a manual in Arabic. About everything, any art, tailoring, sewing. It's all there. They're all holy arts, which we should learn, and at least some people should take up as their actual work and occupation. In short, this is how we learn Arabic. We learn it at all the levels. My plan is to make these courses, at least in those things which I know, which are actual practical courses. They're not just courses in Arabic. They will also have a dimension where we should actually realize these things and do them. Ultimately, so to commune with the realities of them. Because the realities of these Arabic words are the realities of God. I always like to recite the hadith. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من عمل بما علم ورثه الله علم ما لا يعلم. That who worketh upon what he knoweth, him shall God make to inherit the knowledge of that which he knoweth not. To actually realize our knowledge in action leads to more knowledge. This, if we think about it, is an exponential growth. It grows and grows and grows. Knowledge is like a field which grows more produce, a tree which gives seeds. Those seeds give more trees which give more seeds. It's an exponential growth. Even the smallest seed of knowledge can exponentially explode into complete gnosis if acted upon with sincerity. So what we need is not to learn more and more and more in quantity. It is just to have the quality of sincerity with our knowledge, and that will suffice us entirely, making us to inherit all the knowledges of the deep, seen and unseen, of the heavens and the earth, both spiritual and physical. So let us leave this here. I hope that this was a vision of what is to come, a vision of what learning language means, how it is integrated with a general program of education, an education of the heart, the mind, the body, the soul, not just an education of learning a language. There's an entire holistic, spiritual activity and endeavor. It is the path. It is the as-siratul mustaqim. It is the way. It is the truth. It is life. So I again highly recommend you to take a look at the other videos on education that I've made recently. Take a look at the entire course where I explain more about the cosmology of the Arabic language. And we shall continue this next time. Assalamu alaikum.